Welcome to another coaching demonstration from the team at MRA. The tool we're showcasing today is Perceptual Positions.
Hi Sophie, how are you?
Really well, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, lovely to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
So we've got our coaching session today. We've got 20 minutes. I know we've done some brilliant contracting before in our previous sessions, but just a reminder of a few things. Everything that we discuss is completely confidential. I won't be sharing anything from the session with anybody else, but obviously if you want to, then please do share any insights or anything from the session with other people if that's going to be helpful. And obviously I know you know what coaching is, but just as a bit of a reminder, I'm not here to give you advice. I'm here to listen, ask questions, and for you to find solutions for yourself that will work for you. That makes sense.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, brilliant. What do you need from me today as your coach?
So just to hear me out really and help me explore the topic that I'm bringing today. I haven't really talked about this particular topic with anybody else, so feeling heard and just able to explore it in a really safe way, because it's a bit tricky.
Okay, so it's something you've not talked about with anybody else before, about you being heard. It's a bit tricky for you. I can kind of see that already in your your hesitancy and your facial expressions. So an opportunity in a safe space to discuss something that you've not discussed before.
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
Okay, brilliant. And what would you like to get at the end of the session that you don't have now?
A clearer understanding around perhaps what I can do about this particular topic, if anything at all, just a bit of clearer sort of and more clarity around the thinking, and just if there is anything I can do about it, that would be really welcome.
Okay, so clarity, and then there's a bit of should you be doing something about it, and if you are going to do something, what that might look like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so what would you like to talk about today?
So there is a senior leader in the organisation. Her and I get on really well. We have a good working relationship, and I respect her and I value what she brings. She's really good at her role, so it has a massive impact in a really positive way most of the time. But she does have a tendency, and this happens really infrequently, but she does have a tendency to have quite volcanic, explosive outbursts. And I don't say that lightly. If she has one, you know about it. So I've known her 10 years plus now. And I can count maybe 3 occasions where this has happened. So they are infrequent, but the impact is massive. And although I've tried to broach the subject with her on occasion, I'm not sure I've done it in the right way, because it certainly hasn't helped her thinking, let's put it that way. So I'm sort of holding on to it. But I think it gets in the way for her in terms of building relationships with people trusting her. So I feel like it would be something really valuable for her to know about herself. I mean, she knows she loses her temper, but I'm not sure, well, I know she isn't clear on the impact that then has, not just in the moment on the people that are there, but sort of wider than that, broader than that, in terms of relationships.
So in terms of my understanding, then you're looking to broach this subject with her, to have the conversation with her. Is that in your head, or is there a bit of, I'm sensing a bit of should I, shouldn't I?
Yeah, so I feel like if it was me, I would want to know, right? So that's sort of the position I'm coming from. but I'm a bit worried about how she might take it. I'm a bit worried about what that might do to our relationship. And I think that's kind of sitting around it, as well as to, I would want to know, but it's about how might I do that in the right way, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm really sensing that sort of desire to do the right thing, but also to do it in the right way. So I'm wondering, Sophie, whether we might try an exercise to sort of help, sort of rehearse the conversation, but also for you to gain that understanding, that clarity as to whether you want to have the conversation, and if you do, how you might go about that.
Yeah,
it's an exercise called Perceptual Positions, something you might have come across before. The reason why it's quite useful in this situation where you're thinking about giving feedback, having a conversation, not quite sure how it will be received, it helps you to look at it from the position of yourself. So the first position I'm going to ask you to think about it from is sitting as you and having the conversation with her, and just say what you want to say to her. How does that feel? And then I'm going to ask you to move to a second position, which is the position of her, and she's receiving and hearing the feedback from you. What does that, how does that play out for her? What's she thinking and feeling in that situation? And then the third position is that detached, objective observer position. So I'd get you to sort of step back from and look at what's just played out in front of you, and get you to think about what's gone on, with a view to you gaining that clarity, that understanding that you talked about at the very beginning of the conversation around whether you should have the conversation and what that might look like. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds could be really helpful.
I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, brilliant. So the beauty of this exercise is that I'm going to ask you to sort of physically move into those positions. So I want you to kind of shift your chair into what would be position one, so to one side. Okay, so that's position one. And I want you to think about and look across to where position two would be, where she would be actually sitting. And I want you to imagine that she's sitting in front of you. And I want you to sit in that position one and to basically have the conversation. So give her the feedback that you want to give her about the situation that you've just explained to me.
Okay. So, you know how much I value our relationship, how much I respect what you do, what you bring. You have an amazing work ethic. I love the way your mind works. You're so creative. And you know, that's been invaluable to me on the things and the times that we've worked together. Because I really value you, and because I want what's best for you, I'd really like to share some feedback. Something that I've observed in terms of some of your behaviours. They are infrequent, but I have observed it, and I'm not sure you really know the impact of them. So last week, when there was the issue in the office, the way in which you dealt with that, you were shouting, you really lost your temper to the point that even when I was trying to talk to you, you didn't even know that I was there. You were so angry in the moment with that person in the office that actually everything else seemed to stop for you. I'm just wondering what you thought the impact of that behaviour might have been on everybody that was in that room, me included, but particularly to the person that your anger in that moment was directed to. I'd just be really interested to try and understand how you thought that might be helpful, and if you had the chance to do it all again, what you might do differently.
Okay. So having said that out loud, what are you thinking and feeling?
Gosh, I'm feeling quite nervous because it's what I would really like to say to her. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what might her response be? Would I get that emotional, angry outburst back? Potentially. I really wanted it to be for her to hear my intent, which is around, you know, helping her be more successful. She's already brilliant, but just helping her be more aware around actually sometimes the impact you have isn't great because of this particular behaviour. But yeah, quite nervous around it, but it felt good to say it out loud. I would just like the impact to be great for her.
Yeah. So nervous.
Yeah.
Glad you said it. You want the impact to be felt in the way that you intend.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to ask you to do now, Sophie, is I'm going to ask you to shift to position 2, so to the position where she would be sitting.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. So this is the position of her. She's heard what you've said to her. And now I want you to talk back to position 1. What's your response to what you've just heard?
Probably, wow, I didn't know you felt like that. I didn't know that's how I made you feel. I thought we'd got a good relationship. Why haven't you told me this? That whole incident last week, you know, yes, I know I can get cross on occasion, but that is because I really care about the organisation. That project in particular is, you know, it's been my baby since we started with it. It's really important to me that we don't make any mistakes. We made a mistake on it. Maybe I was a little bit over the top. I wonder whether sometimes my passion for my work can be overplayed. Never really thought about it. It certainly isn't my intent to upset people or have a negative impact on people. Actually, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the best for the client and for the organisation.
Okay. And sitting in that position, Sophie, and what you've just said in terms of and some understanding that's been gained by her from what you've just said. I wasn't aware that was the impact. Sometimes our passion might get overplayed. What are you thinking and feeling as her in that position now?
I'm feeling a bit emotional. I'm feeling a bit sad that that's my impact, because I really pride myself on showing up well, on being brilliant, on delivering, on doing a great job, on having good relationships. But now I'm thinking, is that how I show up? Is that how people see me? And I'm now questioning, actually, maybe they don't.
So nervous in position 1 about giving the feedback. Feeling a bit sad now, sitting in position 2. the impact you might be having and maybe not realising.
Mm.
I'm wondering if you could now sit in or stand in position 3, which is looking at that conversation and how it's played out. So you're standing there as an observer, objective. You've looked at what Sophie said, you've looked at how it's been received and what the response has been. What are you noticing standing now in that position?
That actually she's far more receptive to feedback than perhaps I might have given her credit for. And that actually it's easy to forget all of the good bits when she does this thing, because she's coming at it from the perspective of she wants to do a really good job, she's really passionate about it, she's fighting for the best work. That doesn't excuse the way in which she goes about it, of course, but actually it's given I think there's a much better understanding around it. And actually, I'm only looking at it from the impact it's having on me. And I'm thinking about the impact it's having on me through the lens of our relationship. And I wonder whether there's something else in this around, maybe I should only feed back to her around the impact it's having on me, because that's the right thing to do, as opposed to perhaps because I've talked about the impact it has on other people. Actually, is it even my place to do that? Is it even my place to say that?
So if you you started talking about it from the perspective of you, Sophie, you stay standing in that objective position. What are you noticing in terms of the dynamic, what you've seen, what you've witnessed?
So Sophie has been quite fearful and anxious about giving the feedback because of the way in which she's seen her explode on occasion. But in actual reality, yes, that could be an option, but in actual reality, it could also be that she is received in a really positive way, in terms of she's listened to, she's heard, and actually there's more chance of this person actually doing something about it because she's heard and she's listened and she's calm. She doesn't have a calm silence, she gets feedback. But I am also noticing that actually Sophie's giving other broader feedback. And I'm wondering whether that is her place to do that, and whether she should just stick to giving the feedback in terms of the impact on her as everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask you now to sit back in position 1. So as you, Sophie, and shift your chair back into position 1. As you sit back down there, what are you thinking, or what's the impact of having been through those different positions in terms of what you are now thinking about the feedback, the conversation that you want to have with this person?
So there's definitely something around the feedback that I give being around the impact on me, as opposed, because I can't speak for anybody else. It needs to be the impact that behaviour has on me and our relationship. I think when I sit here now and I think about, well, actually, my number one value is integrity. And I think that's really sort of being conflicted for me in this particular situation in terms of her behaviour. So really recognising that. And another one of mine is around making a positive difference in this. Absolutely, her behaviour does not, but actually if I have the conversation with her around the impact that it has on me on a personal basis, this is making a positive difference. So this would be really playing to my values in terms of stepping into that space and having that conversation with her and giving her that feedback. And I guess it's more important that she has that feedback and I act with integrity and I try and make a positive difference, than it is to sort of sit on it because I'm just worried about what it might do to the relationship, and therefore what she might then think. So sort of this is far outweighs how I initially showed up in terms of why I perhaps not really stepped into that feedback space.
So what's the action then associated with that insight?
So I'm going to have a conversation with her. I need to have a little think about, because what I did when I had the conversation with her in this is I really sort of played to her strengths. And I think that's really important, because she's great in so many ways. So I think really thinking about how I frame that for her, but also really invite her to reflect on her behaviour herself. So the next action will be, I need to set some time up with her to do that. I know she's got a big pitch coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's probably not the best timing, but we have an off-site in about 6 weeks. So I might try and, perhaps it's an overnighter, so I might try and have some time with her on the evening, away from work, away from the office, and maybe have that conversation with her then. That might be the best time to do it.
Okay, so there's an action there around having the conversation, but choosing to have it in a few weeks' time after the pitch, off-site, away from work, so to create an environment where you can have a constructive conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, how have we done versus the initial objective of understanding and gaining clarity on the situation?
Yeah, it's been really helpful, because I recognise that my reluctance to step into the space and give her the feedback is because I assumed she would lose her temper. But actually the way I've played it out today, naturally, was that she didn't, and that actually she was a bit sad that I hadn't, because we have a good relationship, I hadn't told her and given her that feedback. So that's been really helpful for me to look at it from that perspective, that yeah, she might not get defensive and shout about it, she might actually be really sad. So it's been really helpful to think about it from her perspective and in her shoes, in a way that I wouldn't have done normally. And actually to be able to now sort of visualize being away, having that conversation with her off-site, in an environment that's a bit different for us both, and hopefully it's received in the right way. Okay,
brilliant. Thank you, Sophie. Thanks for engaging in the session and being up for moving around a little bit. It sounds like you've got some actions that you can follow through with after today, and obviously we can have that conversation at our next coaching session. I'll be interested to hear how that goes.
Lovely, thank you, it's been really useful.
Brilliant, thanks Sophie, see you next time.
Bye.
That concludes the coaching demonstration. If you'd like to learn more about professional coaching, please visit www.matthewradley.co.uk.